Griselda Blanco, famously known as the Black Widow, was a notorious Colombian drug lord whose empire dominated Miami's cocaine trade, generating a staggering $80 million monthly nationwide. Linked to an alleged 250 murders, her reign of terror left a permanent mark on the criminal underworld. Griselda Blanco ascended from a life of petty crime to reign as the head of a sprawling narcotics empire. At its peak, Blanco commanded a distribution network stretching from the cocoa fields of Bolivia through the slums of Medellin to every corner of the USA. While Pablo Escobar was still a nobody, Blanco emerged as the formidable godmother of cocaine. Blanco's influence was so immense that she played a pivotal role in transforming early 80s Miami into a battleground. Both a nurturing mother and a merciless killer, Blanco's life epitomized the duality of cocaine's most infamous queenpin. We step into the riveting life of Griselda Blanco in this captivating video. Born on February 15th, 1943, Blanco's origins are shrouded in mystery, with speculation suggesting she hailed from Colombia's north coast, potentially from Santa Marta or Cartagena. What is certain is that her family relocated to Medellin during a tumultuous period in Colombian history. The assassination of a liberal leader in Bogotá in 1948 sparked an undeclared civil war between the state's political parties, plunging the nation into chaos. This era, known for its extreme brutality, witnessed horrific acts such as gruesome methods where enemies' throats were slashed and their tongues pulled out. Villagers were mercilessly slaughtered for their political affiliations, and children were often left mutilated and abandoned in playgrounds. It's perhaps unsurprising that individuals who grew up in this era would later rise to become Colombia's violent cartel leaders. Griselda endured a harsh upbringing in Medellin's notorious slum, a place so plagued by crime that authorities avoided it. Surrounded by prostitutes, addicts, and criminals, she navigated a perilous childhood. While she later claimed to have suffered sexual assault, the truth remains uncertain. Despite her eventual wealth and notoriety for murder, Griselda always portrayed herself as a victim. Rumors suggest her first kill occurred at just 11, when she allegedly kidnapped a boy for ransom. When the family refused to pay, she reportedly ended his life with a single gunshot, leaving many to wonder about the depths of her darkness from such a young age. In the gritty underworld of 1950s New York, Griselda's turbulent journey found a flicker of stability when she crossed paths with Carlos Trujillo, a seasoned forger and trafficker. At just 13, she was already steeped in hardship, fleeing the clutches of her abusive mother. Trujillo, much older, took her under his wing, and soon she was ensnared in his web of crime. By 1962, at the tender age of 19, Griselda had blossomed into a seemingly innocent, flirtatious woman, barely 5 feet tall. Yet behind her sweet facade lurked a cunning mind. With Trujillo by her side, they birthed a criminal empire, mastering the art of forging passports and trafficking people into the United States. Their small network in New York burgeoned as they navigated the city's shadows, their illicit activities veiled beneath her unassuming guise. But in this world, appearances were deceiving, and Griselda's story was only beginning to unfold. As the 1960s drew to a close, Carlos Trujillo's sudden demise sent shockwaves through Griselda's world. Officially attributed to liver failure, whispers circulated suggesting a more sinister truth, hinting at Griselda's involvement. It was a time when she earned her moniker, the Black Widow, a chilling nod to her mysterious past and the fate of those close to her. Undeterred by Trujillo's death, Griselda swiftly sought out a new partner in crime. Enter Alberto Brava, a gangster with a far-reaching network spanning real estate and the bustling city of Medellin. Unlike Trujillo, Brava's interests lay not in smuggling people, but in the burgeoning cocaine trade. In 1970, cocaine was still an underground presence in America's party scene, but Griselda and Brava foresaw its lucrative potential. Embracing the role of bloodthirsty entrepreneurs, they positioned themselves at the forefront of this burgeoning market, poised to ride the wave of the coming boom straight into infamy. As the new decade unfolded, Griselda and Brava found themselves entrenched in Queens, New York City, utilizing Trio's old people smuggling routes to distribute cocaine across the city. But Griselda wasn't content with conventional methods. She pioneered innovative ways to smuggle cocaine into America, including one infamous tactic involving modified bras. Before drug smuggling became sophisticated, mules would discreetly carry products strapped to their bodies. Griselda's stroke of brilliance was to make the bulges overt, padding bras with half a kilo of coke in each cup. She recruited curvaceous Colombian women, trained to smile and flirt with male customs officials, diverting attention from their chest. It was a deceptively simple, yet wildly successful strategy, flooding New York City with cocaine in just a few short years. Their operation became so dominant that not even the mafia could rival their control over the market. Griselda's ingenuity, combined with Brava's connections, solidified their place as power players in the drug trade, achieving what many thought impossible. During a time when Pablo Escobar was still a petty thief, Griselda Blanco was raking in over $10 million a week from drug profits alone. While accumulating wealth, she also focused on building her brand, drawing from her experiences in the slums where toughness was paramount. DEA agents, confronted with the overwhelming influx of cocaine flooding America's streets, encountered a wall of fear-induced silence. Whispers in dive bars and nightclubs warned of Griselda's ruthlessness. Cross her, and you risk losing more than just your ground. Yet, despite the veil of silence, Operation Banshee managed to recruit 2 former drug mules willing to testify against Blanco. Before the federal hammer could fall, Griselda vanished into thin air, seamlessly adopting a new identity thanks to her adeptness at document forgery honed alongside Carlos Trujillo. Just as effortlessly as slipping into a tailored blazer, she evaded capture, leaving law enforcement grasping at shadows. When news of the looming threat reached Griselda Blanco and Alberto Brava, they wasted no time in abandoning their lives in New York. With new passports in hand, they boarded planes and vanished back to Colombia, hoping to find refuge from the storm brewing on the horizon. However, their return to Colombia in 1975 was far from the homecoming Griselda had envisioned. The Medellin they returned to was vastly different from the one they had left behind. A new figure was emerging on the criminal landscape, one whose ruthlessness surpassed even Griselda's own formidable reputation. His name was Pablo Escobar, and he was about to make Griselda's life a living hell. Escobar wasted no time in asserting his dominance, encroaching on territories that Griselda once controlled with an iron grip. Despite Griselda's willingness to resort to violence to reclaim what was hers, she found herself constantly outmaneuvered by Escobar's cunning tactics. Faced with escalating tensions, Griselda doubled down on her ruthless persona, adhering to her mantra that she needed to be twice as tough as the toughest man. It is even rumored that Griselda Blanco was the mastermind behind the concept of murder by Sicario, a method where gunmen on motorcycles swiftly executed targets before disappearing into the streets. Yet, despite her best efforts, Escobar's influence continued to grow. He deployed entire teams of hitmen to dismantle Griselda's operations, seizing control of her drug labs and squeezing her out of the market. As Griselda struggled to maintain her foothold in the face of Escobar's relentless onslaught, her personal life also began to unravel. As whispers of infidelity and betrayal swirled around Alberto Brava, Griselda Blanco watched with growing unease as her husband's attention seemed to drift away from their partnership. Spending more and more time in Bogota, Brava's absences fueled speculation about clandestine affairs and plans to break away from Blanco's control. The tension between them finally erupted when Blanco discovered a staggering sum missing from their organization, vanishing into thin air like smoke in the night. Confronting Brava in the shadowy confines of a popular Bogota club's parking lot, Blanco demanded answers, her eyes burning with a fierce determination. But instead of explanations, Brava reached for his Uzi, the glint of steel cutting through the darkness. The crackle of gunfire shattered the stillness of the rainy Bogota night, echoing off the walls of the parking lot like thunder. When the chaos subsided, Blanco stood wounded but unbroken, her resolve as strong as ever. Bravo lay motionless, his betrayal sealed with the ultimate price. The killing of Bravo served as a grim testament to Blanco's unwavering determination and solidified her chilling moniker of the Black Widow. With steely resolve, Blanco returned to Medellin that very night, her heart unmoved by the violence she had wrought. In the wake of Bravo's demise, Blanco wasted no time in moving forward, embracing her role as a formidable force in the criminal underworld. Within a year, she forged a new alliance, marrying Dario Sepulveda, an associate of the notorious Ochoa brothers. Their union bore fruit in 1978 with the arrival of a son whom Blanco christened Michael Corleone Blanco, a tribute to her admiration for the iconic Godfather movies. As the 1970s drew to a close, Griselda Blanco found herself at a crossroads. Pablo Escobar's Medellin cartel had risen to unparalleled power, effectively overshadowing Blanco's influence in their home city. With Escobar's network expanding rapidly and swallowing up even the most formidable rivals, Blanco faced an opponent tougher and more remorseless than any she had encountered before. In the face of Escobar's relentless onslaught, Blanco confronted a harsh truth. Continuing to fight would likely result in her downfall. Wisely weighing her options, she made the strategic decision to retreat, recognizing that survival sometimes meant conceding defeat. Thus, at the close of the decade, the enigmatic Black Widow embarked on a new chapter of her tumultuous journey. Shedding her former identity once again, Blanco slipped into the shadows and boarded a plane bound for the United States. However, instead of returning to the familiar streets of New York, she set her sights on a new frontier, Miami. Miami, with its sun-drenched beaches, glittering condos, and burgeoning reputation as a playground for the rich and famous, held immense potential for Blanco's ambitions. Little did the city know that it stood on the brink of becoming ground zero for a seismic shift in the global drug trade. Despite her petite stature and unassuming appearance, Griselda Blanco carried with her a formidable presence and a reputation that preceded her. As she touched down in Miami, she brought with her the promise of upheaval and transformation. The city, unsuspecting and unaware, would soon find itself thrust into the throes of a new era, one shaped by the indomitable force that was Griselda Blanco, the cocaine godmother. When Griselda Blanco landed in South Florida, she arrived at the crest of a colossal wave of cocaine that was poised to inundate America. By 1980, Colombia was churning out 3/4 of the world's cocaine, with a staggering 70% of it funneled through South Florida, flooding Miami with over $20 billion worth of product annually. Eager to reclaim her stake in the drug trade, Blanco wasted no time in rebuilding her distribution network. However, with Cuban gangs already entrenched in Miami, she had to carve out a new niche for herself, one marked by chaos and bloodshed. The 250 hits Blanco ordered were predominantly carried out in the streets of the Magic City, where violence became alarmingly commonplace. Yet, Blanco wasn't the sole architect of Miami's transformation. From 1980 to 1981, the city became embroiled in cartel wars, resulting in a staggering murder rate that surpassed even Medellin's. The influx of bodies was so overwhelming that the city coroner had to resort to renting refrigerated trucks from unlikely sources like Burger King to store them. However, Blanco's influence extended far beyond street warfare, with her 3 sons, Dixon, Uber, and Osvaldo, each managing distribution in different cities. Blanco established a sprawling empire capable of selling over 1,500 kilograms of cocaine every month. Such vast profits necessitated extensive laundering, a task Blanco undertook with unparalleled ambition and scale. As drug money flooded into Miami, Griselda Blanco funneled her riches into the city's real estate, mirroring the practices of her fellow cocaine cowboys. Her investments sparked an economic boom, transforming Miami's landscape and elevating her to newfound heights of wealth and luxury. By the early 1980s, Griselda resided in a Florida mansion so opulent that even Tony Montana would have been envious. The grandeur of her estate was matched only by the peculiar sight of a bust of her own head, which visitors would kiss for good luck. perhaps out of necessity, given the dangers lurking in her world. Despite her wealth and status, Griselda remained as ruthless as ever, determined to maintain her dominance in the underworld. When her husband, Dario Sepulveda, defied her wishes by attempting to take their son back to Medellin, tragedy struck. Sepulveda's defiance ended in bloodshed when he was gunned down by police, leaving their son, Michael, traumatized. Despite ordering her husband's murder in front of their son, she continued to navigate the treacherous waters of the drug trade with a steely determination that made it clear Griselda Blanco was not to be trifled with. Blanco's name became synonymous with fear, her iron-fisted rule casting a long shadow over those who dared to oppose her. Despite being just one arm of the cartel, Blanco's prominence stemmed from her involvement in the infamous Dadeland massacre and numerous murders. It was her ruthless association with these killings that earned her a fearsome reputation, overshadowing her role in cocaine trafficking. In 1979, Blanco found herself embroiled in a deadly shootout at Dadeland Mall, then the largest shopping center in South Florida. According to Lean's account in Kings of Cocaine, 2 Colombian cocaine dealers brazenly opened fire on another dealer and his bodyguard in broad daylight at a liquor store within the mall. The resulting carnage claimed the lives of 2 men and left an indelible mark on Miami, earning it the infamous title of the Cocaine Cowboys capital in national media coverage. Reflecting on the incident, Lean emphasizes its profound impact. It had an impact that outweighed the fact that only 2 people were killed. It was seared into our memory. It drove all this fear. It created an image of the Colombian cocaine killers that lasts to this day. The Dadeland shooting marked the introduction of retired homicide detective Al Singleton to the notorious Griselda Blanco. Acting on intelligence from the DEA, the Miami PD suspected Blanco's involvement in the violent incident. As Singleton arrived at the scene, he was confronted with a chilling display of firepower. MAC-10s, carbines, shotguns, and pistols strewn about the shooter's war wagon. Portrayed by Carter McIntyre in the series, Singleton was deeply unsettled by the stark contrast between the criminal's arsenal and the limited weaponry available to law enforcement at the time. Reflecting on the event, he remarked, "That was a stark realization of how outgunned we were because back then, the only weapon we were allowed to carry was a 6-shot 38 caliber revolver." 3 years later, Blanco ordered the murder of Jesus Chucho Castro, a former enforcer, which tragically resulted in the drive-by death of his 2-year-old son, Johnny Castro. While the series, Griselda, depicts Blanco appearing distressed upon hearing of the toddler's death, the reality was far more chilling. According to Singleton, who was involved in the investigation, Blanco exhibited no empathy towards her victims, including 2-year-old Johnny Castro. He asserts, "Griselda showed her a little bit empathetic toward her victims, and you can rest assured she showed no empathy toward any victims, and that includes 2-year-old Johnny Castro." Singleton adds, "She was upset because they missed Chucho, but then she was happy because knowing that his son was killed, he would suffer." Nelson Andreu, a former Miami homicide detective, was accustomed to handling bar fight deaths, crimes of passion, and small-scale drug deals gone awry. However, the wave of murders and drug-related violence associated with Blanco and the Medellin cartel presented an unprecedented challenge for him and his fellow officers. Reflecting on the tumultuous era, Andreu acknowledges, "It was the worst times for the police department because neither the city of Miami or Miami-Dade County were prepared." He explains, "Hialeah, Coral Gables, Miami Beach, all the homicide units were not prepared to handle what was thrown our way. We didn't have enough manpower." Blanco's criminal legacy culminated in nearly 2 decades of incarceration, stemming from convictions related to drug trafficking and 3 brutal murders. Among these killings were the executions of drug dealers Alfredo and Grisel Lorenzo, slain in their Miami home with their children nearby, allegedly over a debt of 5 kilos of cocaine worth $250,000. During Blanco's reign as the cocaine godmother, Miami stood as the epitome of urban chaos, earning the dubious distinction of America's murder capital, with over 500 homicides in 1980 alone. However, in a testament to the city's transformation, 2023 witnessed a remarkable decline in violent crime, with just 31 reported homicides, a stark contrast to the bloodshed that characterized Blanco's era. As Miami basked in the neon glow of the mid-1980s, Griselda Blanco, the cocaine godmother, reigned supreme. With her fortune surpassing $1 billion, she had solidified her position as the first female cartel boss to achieve such staggering wealth. Fear trailed in her wake, her dominance unchallenged as she commanded the cocaine market with an iron fist. However, in the world of crime, hubris often precedes downfall. Griselda's ascent had drawn the attention of not only rival cartels but also law enforcement agencies determined to bring her to justice. The repercussions of ordering the deaths of countless drug traffickers reverberated, creating a lethal web of enemies eager for revenge. By 1984, Miami had become a powder keg of violence, teeming with individuals thirsting for retribution against Griselda Blanco. Faced with mounting threats and surrounded by adversaries, Blanco's reign in the Sunshine State came to an abrupt end as she was forced into hiding in California. Yet even as Blanco grappled with the immediate dangers posed by rival cartels, a more formidable adversary loomed on the horizon: the DEA. Obsessed with apprehending Blanco since her initial evasion in 1975, DEA agents intensified their efforts upon learning of her return to the United States. With informants, wiretaps, and raids on cocaine distribution centers, they closed in on their target with relentless determination. As Griselda Blanco resurfaced in California, law enforcement finally caught a break. Jerry Gomez, a former mechanic who had serviced her son's motorbikes in Medellin and was now imprisoned in the US for cocaine smuggling, provided crucial information. In 1984, Gomez met Blanco in a Los Angeles hotel under the guise of helping her launder money. During their meeting, Blanco, known for her reticence, inadvertently disclosed enough about her criminal activities for the DEA to start preparing an arrest warrant. Using a utility bill found during a recent raid, they traced Blanco to an unassuming California apartment. On February 17, 1985, the DEA executed their operation. Bursting into the apartment, they found Blanco calmly reading the Bible in bed, a gun resting on the dresser. Instead of resistance, Blanco greeted her arrest with disbelief as the agents approached, kissed her on the cheek, and declared their relief at finally apprehending her after a decade on the run. Following Griselda Blanco's arrest, her 3 eldest sons were also apprehended, leading to the dismantling of their distribution network and the collapse of their cocaine empire. On June 25, 1985, Blanco, once hailed as one of Colombia's greatest drug lords, stood trial as a stark warning to aspiring criminals. 2 weeks later, a jury convicted her of conspiracy charges related to cocaine manufacturing, importation, and distribution, earning her a 15-year sentence. With her reign as the cocaine queenpin officially over, Blanco initially pursued legal avenues for recourse. However, after her final appeal was dismissed in 1988, she resorted to illegal means. Rumors swirled of a plot to kidnap John F. Kennedy Jr. and demand her release, but none of her schemes came to fruition. Despite her failed attempts to manipulate her fate, Griselda Blanco's story was far from over. In fact, the most bizarre chapter may have yet to unfold. Despite Griselda Blanco's incarceration, the thirst for revenge against her lingered like a smoldering ember. Across the United States and Colombia, scores of individuals harbored deep-seated grudges, eager for an opportunity to settle the score. Unable to reach Blanco herself, they turned their sights on those closest to her. The first casualty was Osvaldo Trujillo, Blanco's son, who met a grisly fate upon his release from prison in 1992. Shot down with a submachine gun at his own welcome home party in Medellin, he became a tragic victim of the vendetta against his mother. Blanco, unable to attend her son's funeral, issued a chilling threat through a note read by a priest, promising retribution against those responsible. True to her word, when Blanco's surviving son, Dixon, tracked down the shooter, he ensured a brutal demise, fulfilling his mother's vow of vengeance. However, Dixon's own life was cut short soon after, followed by Uber Trujillo, Blanco's third son. In 1994, the Grim Reaper made its first attempt on Blanco herself when she was extradited to Miami-Dade to face trial for multiple murders. Prosecutors, armed with damning testimony from Blanco's former hitman, Jorge Ayala, appeared poised to secure a conviction. However, the case took an unexpected turn when it was revealed that Ayala had engaged in inappropriate relations with secretaries from the prosecutor's office, leading to the collapse of the case. Desperate to salvage something from the debacle, prosecutors offered Blanco a plea deal. In exchange for pleading guilty to lesser charges, Blanco received a relatively lenient sentence of 20 years, including time served. Accepting the deal, Blanco bid farewell to prison in the early 21st century, boarding a plane bound for Colombia, leaving behind a turbulent legacy of crime and retribution. As Griselda Blanco returned to Colombia, she found a vastly transformed underworld. Many of her former adversaries, like Pablo Escobar and the Cher brothers, were either dead or out of the drug trade. With no one left to greet her with a gun, Colombia had moved on from its years of narco-terror, albeit still plagued by civil unrest. Blanco seized the opportunity to fade into anonymity, settling into a quiet life in a modest apartment in the hills of Medellin. Embracing religion and adding some extra weight, she seemed content to leave her days as the cocaine godmother behind, believing herself forgotten by both friends and foes. However, fate had other plans. On a seemingly ordinary Monday in September 2012, a motorbike pulled up outside a butcher shop in Medellin. Without warning, a middle-aged man entered the shop and fatally shot the now 69-year-old Blanco twice in the head. As quickly as he had appeared, the assailant vanished into the morning traffic. In the end, it seemed there was one enemy who had never forgotten the score he had to settle with Griselda Blanco. As the cocaine godmother met her demise in the bustling streets of Medellin, one can't help but wonder if she reflected on her tumultuous life and how history would remember her. Blanco reflects, "To some, my mother was a villain, but to others, she was a hero. She did wrong, I get it, but she was my mom, and I'll always love her." Her youngest son, Michael Corleone Blanco, raised amidst her empire, remembers her as a strict yet affectionate figure, fondly calling her Carinosa, a term reserved for loved ones. Michael reflects, "As a kid, you can't grasp what's right or wrong, especially when it's the family business. Growing up in that lifestyle, security, constant vigilance, a sense of danger, it takes time to sink in." Amidst his mother's booming cocaine empire, Blanco enjoyed a lavish lifestyle. His three older brothers, all tragically murdered, cruised around in Lamborghinis, Ferraris, and Maseratis. One even customized his luxury rides to fit his height. They lived in opulent homes on Key Biscayne and Palm Island, traveling in armored vehicles and owning a private jet. For his 6th birthday bash, they rented out a cruise ship complete with a petting zoo. But shortly after, his mother's arrest in 1985 for cocaine trafficking changed everything. Michael Corleone Blanco, the only surviving son of Griselda Blanco, bore witness to the harrowing toll of the drug wars, enduring the loss of 22 family members, including his father, Dario Sepulveda, who fell victim to assassination by Griselda in 1983 while in Colombia. Netflix's series Griselda delves into the blood-soaked reign of Griselda Blanco during the 70s and 80s. Starring Sofia Vergara as the fierce queenpin, the 6-part series follows her arrival in Miami with her 3 sons, including a young Blanco. With a kilo of cocaine, she aims to establish a powerful trafficking network between Colombia and Miami. The show portrays Griselda navigating Miami's nightclubs and suburbs, clashing with cartel bosses and the Miami PD, led by June Hawkins. Set in the era when cocaine ruled Miami, the series captures the intensity of Griselda's drug wars. The series opens with a haunting quote from the notorious drug lord Pablo Escobar, offering a chilling glimpse into the shadowy world ruled by Griselda Blanco. "The only man I was ever afraid of was a woman named Griselda Blanco." Thanks for tuning in to this episode. If you enjoyed what you saw, don't forget to give us a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button to stay updated on all our future releases. And if you're looking for more great content, check out the video playing on your screen right now. Just click, and I'll catch you in the next one.